Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming, and this is from the Depths Designer, and I'm on another little test system, and you're looking at some secondary weapon setups I've been testing and getting ready for some more new builds, because after the last few battles with the white flayers, especially the heavy squadron, I noticed that, to be honest, our ships are good at long range, like the cruiser squadron, where they can keep the range, but the slower vessels definitely had disadvantages, shall we say, at closer ranges, when those white flayers came in on their suicide runs in close to the ship. So I've decided to, or gone out and looked at a few designs and said, you know, what's available, and it's time for the US Navy designs to start coming through, with a theme generally of lots of AA, everything multi-purpose, but mainly being close range offensive, I think will be the plan. And also coming up, combining that, is we've got a battle with some land bases and land forces. So how about making a ship that can bombard the bases and the slow big ships, etc., at the same time? So that would mean, or wouldn't mean, but I feel like close range, high damage at slow land vehicles. That means CRAMs, yes. So we're gonna here go through building some CRAM weapons usable in a battleship that's going to be aiming to. We'll set the requirements. So let's say it's going to have to fire out to a maximum of 2,000, but preferably, you know, main is around 1,500 meters and closer. So maximum range of 2,000. Quite a high rate of fire would be preferential. And we're going to follow some of the US designs. So we're going to start looking at doing a triple turret, I think, of CRAM. So first of all, let's get a basis for what we're going to need to do and look at CRAM cannons. So CRAM cannons in general are a little simpler in some ways to set up than advanced cannons, but take a little bit more, should we say, balancing with the loaders and the ammo boxes, etc., to get a good gun working with the right rate of fire and the right damage levels. There is a few idiosyncrasies as well about the guns, so we'll just start putting in a basic build, I think, for the moment. So 1, 2, we've got 3, and then we're going to have all the guns actually, let me just see. So I'm going to set 4 blocks underneath is where all of the ammo boxes and auto loaders are going to go on each gun. Then 2 blocks for my what should we call it, the the armor between those and the top of the turret, and then we're going to move the guns forward, and then we'll put the firing piece in. So that's going to be 1, and we'll put a mirror line in now. Now the second one's, now one problem with CRAM cannons is you've got to really keep everything separate. It does not like, when it comes to the ammo boxes, touching the other guns boxes or loaders or anything. They all then at that point start to not connect as you would expect, and it ends up connecting to the gun with the barrel with the lowest amount or lowest ID. So yeah, we're going to stagger these a little bit, which is a little inefficient in some ways, but it will mean that it won't touch each other, for want of a better word. So the first things to think about will be something like a barrel size. Now to get the barrel, the gauges up, we've got to use these gauge increasers, which are quite armoured, so they can act as a little bit of armour on the front as well, so they can serve a couple of purposes. And as long as they're connected to one of these connector blocks or the back of the turret, they will basically, if you look at the size of the gun now, increase the size of the gun. Now you can see it's already a 395mm, which in theory, if we did one more block like that at, let's say 485, that's bigger than the Yamato, and that would be bigger than you can make an APS, but in CRAM cannon terms that's not a very big gun, so we're gonna have to increase these a little bit more, and we'll do a little bit of a testing here just to show what the differences will make. I'm trying to make them, we'll make them even, and then we can decide which ones we want. So we'll have one, let's see, that's at 873. We're going to make this a 1 meter gun. There we go. And then we'll make this a, let's say, a 1.5 meter. You can see it's taking quite a few blocks here to make that. We might have to put some up on the top actually. I don't like putting them up on the top, but we'll go with it. That's a 1.5 meter, and then let's make this a bit bigger, say about 175. Now you can go up to a 2 meter gun, but personally I don't like the looks. I think they look terrible, but also it's a trade-off between your reload times compared to your amount of ammo etc you put in. Now what we're going to do, we're just going to do a very simple here, just to show loading. We're not going to use an auto loader, just so that we can see it for testing purposes, and we'll just put a HE pellet in each of them as well, because that will just show. So we got a reload time of 37 with a minimum of 9, and obviously because of the okay, I need to change one thing because I put the mirror line. These have both gone to a 1.7. Let me just take off the mirror line and reduce this back down to a meter. So we've now got the 3 gun sizes sorted out. So we've got a 1 meter here with a reload time of 16.5, maximum reload time or minimum reload time would be 4 seconds, and a 10,000 explosive. And the second one, which is a 1.5, so that's got a 30 seconds reload, so that is roughly double, although it's only 50% more shell diameter. It is double the reload time, and even the minimum reload time is not quite double, but almost. But it damages 21, whereas the original was 10. So yeah, that's it is doubling up the damage as well. But that reload time means it's going to be doing, it works out the same as far as shots down range, but with accuracy you're potentially not going to be doing as much damage. It depends if all your shells hit. Okay, and the 2 meter, well, 46 seconds, so yeah, that is going to be 3 times the 1 meter, and it's not, well, 50% more than the 1.5, and 33,000, so 3 times again. So they are linear in the reload rate and as it goes up, but the minimum reload time, which you're never really going to get to, isn't quite as linear. So okay, my view is it's better to put more shots down range, so I do like the slightly faster firing guns. There is one other element to take into account, so we'll have a look at that bit now, and that is the range and accuracy. So for that we're going to need to put in some barrels. Now the way I set up a barrel, first of all you're going to need an elevation. Now the elevation gives you, well, as the name suggests, the elevation on the barrel, and it's best to put that right next to the gun piece. I find that gives you the maximum amount of elevation. Now you'll look on the screen in the box that comes up, but near the bottom it says the azimuth, which is left and right, is 22.5 and the elevation is 80. Now for long range I want to keep that at 45, and if I was to just add now some heavy barrels, you'll notice that's gone down to 45, and the second one is gone down to 30. So as we add normal barrels, that elevation gets reduced. But if you add motor driven barrels, that will offset that effect. Now I tend to stick to just around 50-50, so I put an elevation and motor barrels, and then however many I've done, like in this case I'm going to do about 7, then I'll put 7 normal barrels. So if I do 6 motor driven, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so we've got 6 an elevation and 6 motor, and that's given us an elevation there. Now if we put in some barrels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we have 80 degrees still. Now I'm going to put a recoil suppression barrel in here, and you can see that's gone down to 45. If I put another one in, it goes down to 30. But I'm going to leave these at 45 at the moment, because our next test is going to be a little test on range. So 45 degrees, so it depends what you're using this. If you want this as a low angle gun, it would be fine to add more heavy barrels here, and also you can look at the more barrels you put in, the inaccuracy down the bottom reduces. So at the moment we've got a 0.69 for this, and as I add more barrels in, that is reducing. The recoil one doesn't actually reduce it by that much, but you can also see the elevation is also reducing, so it does depend on the range you want. I'm going to leave it at that one. So we've got 0.69, 0.53 and 0.38. so the bigger the gun, this personally, this is in physical world incorrect. The larger the caliber, generally the more in relation to the length of the barrel, the more the inaccuracy would get only gets better if you've got more what they call calibers. So in other words, for a larger shell, it actually needs to be a longer barrel to keep the same level of accuracy over whilst the shell is accelerated. That's why you tend to find larger guns have higher calibers, or they're inaccurate, quite simply. So yeah, it's that one doesn't work out. So this actually big gun actually has a better accuracy than the small gun, which means the small gun is going to hit, let's see, 0.38 to 0.69, not quite half, but it's going to hit an exact spot. But still, 0.69 is going to be good enough, I think, for what we need hitting slow targets. Let's give these a range check. So all 3 shots are away now. So we have some trails on some of them, not on others, but that's because of the HE values, so you won't worry too much. Now you can see, maybe you see the 1 meter one has splashed down about here, which is about 1700, and the 2 meter, let's see if I can keep up on that, is about here, which went to about 2800. So yeah, maximum range then is, we're looking at about 2800 for the 2 meter. So we really need something between the 1 and the 1.5. So okay, let's try some actual values. I'm thinking about 1.4. So they're all at 1406. So let's see what the maximum range is now. So they're firing out a nice little cluster, which is okay, actually. They're spreading out as the inaccuracy. That should give them a nice sort of area effect. We've got a good 11. Well, we'll worry about armor piercing and everything later. So that's a maximum range of 2,200 or thereabouts. I think that should be a good range for them, and it's not going to be too bulky on the upper turret. We can sort out the upper turret a little bit later. We're going to now look at how we get ammo and increase this reload time up from the 7 seconds. So reloading the gun is basically ammo boxes combined with autoloaders. Now the ammo box on its own, if we just add that to the gun, it just gives it the standard reload factor and applies an amount of ammunition onto the gun. If you look down there, about halfway down, there's an 400 ammunition, and you can see that's 600, etc. And you'll also notice that next to it, it says how much ammo each shell uses. So each shell uses 132, and that will be how many shots it needs before it has to wait for the ammo boxes to reload from your main ammo store. So basically you want enough, think of it like clips on an APS. If you have enough clips, then it will reload. It won't need to go to your main ammo supply. Now but adding multiple boxes on does not increase the reload time. What you need is the autoloaders. Very similar to APS systems. These take the rounds that are in the clips, or in this case ammo boxes, and stuffs them in the cannon as quickly as possible. How these work is, if you look on the item, you see there's a sucker on a couple of sides, and those suckers are what must connect to one of the CRAM connectors, and the other side has a little pin, and that is where you can attach ammo boxes, etc. If I get an ammo box now and apply it to this side, which is a pin, you will notice that the reload time has actually gone down to 21.3. So that means we're gonna reload quicker. If I put it onto this side, which was where there was a sucker, you'll see it doesn't connect. So we have to make sure that these have, in this case, 3 pins, and then we can put ammo box, ammo box, ammo box, and we're already down to 17 seconds, which is good. Now there's one other little advantage you can do. If you get 2 ammo connectors connecting to one box, as we've got here, so I'm just going to take off those. We've got 1 ammo box, but if you look at the gun, it's actually gone down to 18.61. So that basically means, although we've only got 1 ammo box, we're actually loading it faster. So you want to, wherever possible, get an ammo box or the other shell items going to one or going to multiple autoloaders. Whoops, no, it's a little too high, don't want to go that high. So we're just going to set up a basic system here at this second. I may change this to fit a bit more in. Okay, one other factor, and we're going to look at that one here, is, in theory, putting one here means it's attaching to this one and this one. But if I put it connecting over here, so you can see the red box is on the gun on the right hand side, but it's actually connected to the left hand side. The gun, I think that's the gun with the lower ID in general. It's got a see, where's the ID 988? 989, and that's going to be 990. Yep. So you can't have, however nice it would be to be able to have these running along here, they won't connect. They will not. They'll connect to one gun but not the other, so you definitely need a separation between the guns. Now there is a way you can do this if you're sneaky, by and making sure that these go, is by changing this one to have a sucker on those two, and then on this one there we go. So now when I place it on this one, it connects to that gun, this one connects to that gun, and you could alternate that going up, and that will give you the ability to have them connecting to both ways. So it's a little bit of a, let's call it a 3D puzzle we've got to work through here to connect all of these boxes up sufficiently to guns. Now one other item you want to be careful of, well, I don't have to, but I like to ensure, is that the reload time on all of them is the same. So you got 12.8, 15.9, so you can see that this one is actually down. These ones are doing better because they've got 4 and those, so I need to give this another 4. So we might have to do something on the inside here again, so that it can catch up. So with a little working and using the fact that the IDs will go to the lowest ID, I can put a couple of shells in this area and they'll automatically connect to the front gun. We've got the reload time now equal on all of them, 12.87. But reload time isn't the only thing we need to think about. Also got to think about damage, and the other packs we've got on there, or other boxes, will effectively stuff in various HE, hardeners and EMP. So HE is a reasonably obvious one in that it's putting HE into the gun. So at the moment you can see we have no explosive. If I now put one, I'm going to put 4 HE in here, and we're going to do the same here. So we've got 4 HE in each of the gun. So looking at it, it shows it's got the equivalent of 10 explosive material boxes. Let's make sure that's the same. 10 explosive material boxes and 10 explosive material boxes. The only difference is that one's got slightly different ammo, but we'll sort that one out a little bit. So okay, now we're packing in an explosive amount to each of the guns, so that will increase to a certain degree how much explosive damage. So we've got at the moment 19,000 over 43 meters, which is pretty good. The other elements, hardeners, at the moment we have an armor piercing value of 4. If I put in a couple of these hardener shells, and we'll put a couple in there as well, which will effectively do the same, you'll see it's now showing as an armor piercing value of 52 because of the density, and it's still 12,000 explosive radius, so that is good. We've now got a bit of explosive, but that's after a lot of packing. And then finally you got EMPs. So again, we'll put in a couple of EMPs, and I'm going to do that by using down there. I think that should work. So EMP now has, let's see, 2,934 using 7 boxes according to that, and 7 boxes, and this one is showing it only 5 EMP. Okay, let's try putting one down here, see if I can equal that up. So it's showing 7, 6.5. Right, let's put another one down here. 10 EMP, 9 EMP, 9 EMP. Oh, that one is actually connecting. Cool, that's interesting. Okay, so we get the values the same. As I say, the most important for me is keeping the reload values the same. So you can put EMP. Now I'm thinking at the moment for the shells, don't want an EMP really. I think that HE and a bit of AP is really what I'm after, and more a matter of keeping that reload rate up. I'm thinking volume of fire is more important than anything else. So after a bit of jiggling around with all of the ammo boxes below, I've got the important bits correct, which is the ammo reload time is the same and the number of ammo boxes is the same, which means they will all fire at the same time and they'll keep firing for the same amount. Now the HE and hardening is slightly different, but that's not a problem. Like the central one is going to have a higher armor piercing value than the two side ones, but the two side ones are going to have a higher HE value. I don't see that as a problem really, because that way your the internal one will have better penetration possibly on certain enemy vessels. So yeah, not really a problem. Okay, next, other little extra bits we can add to our gun. Now first of all, we've got this predictor. Now the predictor is just a gun point, a nice line sticking out. If I can get it to connect, yep, that's correct, which basically when you take control of the gun you get a nice line, certainly at close range, to show where the gun or where the shells are gonna go. It's nice to see. I like having that. The other bit, if I can go back here, is an interface screen. Is not quite sure on that. I haven't really used these ones. You're supposed to be able to connect these to places and see elements about the cannon, but as I say, I don't see them as a use in main use of these, but someone can tell me if there is a particular way they use those interface screens. The laser targeter is similar to the APS. Let's see if I can put it on the front here. Will it allow me to? Let's find somewhere it will go. Not connected. It's wanting to go down here. Let's see if I can find somewhere I can connect it to. There we go. So that allows offset times same as it works on the APS shells. Not that I use that in this particular case. I want these to be impact based. The other one is a fusing box. This can be handy, and a number of areas I find this useful, and I'm going to put this one of these down here. I think in each case I think should be alright. Let's make sure it's connecting. There we go. So the fusing box allows you to set a number of items, like set an altitude to explode above, below, time. The one I like is the inertial. So if it hits and bounces, but like on a shield or just the armor, it will still explode. I usually like that one. You can also use the penetration depth. So for instance, on this high explosive one, you could say explode once you've gone through 2 meters of armor, rather than explode on the surface. So what we can do is do a little bit of a difference. So we can have a penetration depth of say 3 meters on this. So if this goes through 3 meters, it will then explode. Oops, sorry, I want to do that on the center one. Penetration depth, because this is the high AP version, and these two will just set to 10-degree change. So if it hits and bounces for any reason, it will still explode. Now what this does do is, you'll notice somewhere down here about near the top, shell diameter, muzzle velocity, and then 3% of the shell is taken up by fuses. So that's will reduce the amount of damage it can do, because it's obviously using some of the shell for the fuse. Okay, let's see how far these will fire and make sure that they're gonna basically turn in where the barbette will go. So first of all, that cannon rotation speed is a bit high. Doesn't look in keeping with such a big gun, so let's put that down there. So now when it turns, that's a little bit more in keeping with the guns we've got here. I like that. So does it turn all the way around? Yes. Continue that round. Whoops, I think it's getting caught up there. Let's make sure that is the case. Take it round the other way where there's no obstructions. So now it's time to give this a bit of a test fire, and on the test firing you want the second shot to tell what the true armor piercing and HE will be. So if we fire once, wait for them to reload, which will take a few seconds, about 11 seconds hopefully. There they go, and then fire. So we have armor piercing value of 25, that's not too bad, and explosive of 55. That's okay. That's the penetration, that's the penetration depth, so that's going to be the maximum AP shot. Ground is glitching out a little bit, so I just went 6,000, which I know I definitely am not firing 6,000. It's because of the teleport bug, as the shell was going a little too far away. Let's try firing it north instead. Might get less problem because the area has already been brought in, or spawned in and is in memory. Let's have a look. Come on. Come on, get up to maximum elevation and firing. So the armor piercing's higher here because it had longer to cram in a little bit more hardener effectively, but that's alright. So the first shot will always be very good chance of armor piercing, but to be honest, it's got a low chance of hitting. And distance was 2,200. Okay, so that's my maximum range for this gun. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort out the top here so that it's sort of looking about right, ready for putting into a hull, and then I'm going to start building a hull shape. So after a bit of building of a turret, it's time to give it a bit of a test fire against the obligatory Marauder and just see what it's doing. It's about 1,800 meters out there. Let's see how its first shots. It takes a while to line up that first shot, but then we've got quite a nice little grouping heading towards target. Splitting up a little bit, that's fine. And first hit, little long, but it was turning. The AI detection is set here to use quite long times for detection, because this is mainly going against static vehicles. But yeah, it's hitting it, so that's the important point. Out at about, what's the range there? About 1,700, so that's fine. Okay, so how am I going to use this gun for a US Navy? Excuse me. So how am I going to use this turret in a US Navy themed ship? What I'm thinking of is an early standard battleship, as they were called, which was the Pennsylvania class. Now I'm actually going to do, say, a Pennsylvania US Arizona. The Arizona didn't actually survive Pearl Harbour, but let's take it with, let's assume the bomb didn't hit the magazines and it managed to get a rebuild like the Pennsylvania. So the standard ship, the standard battleship, was designed to have a similar guns and speed in all of the ships in its class, so that they would be able to work equally and tactically be easier to manage. Now, the original ship had 4 triple 14-inch guns, which we've got 1400 millimeter, which is obviously somewhat bigger, but hey, it's the spirit of it that counts. And it originally had casemated guns, similar to like we've done in our existing ships, but the Pennsylvania, which did survive Pearl Harbour, had a refit in 1942, and that changed its casement guns to these dual purpose or multi-purpose turreted guns, and also put lots of 40mm and 20mm guns, which I will equate over to these 40mm twins and the 3.7-inch guns I will mount on the ship as the AA support. Other unique factors about the ship is, in the Pennsylvania upgrade, it was one of the first, if not the first, to actually be mounted with a radar search system on one of the rear masts. It's taken a while to take out that Marauder. Anyway, so that's another unique factor, so we can put radar on it. And third one is, it was also used oil-fired boilers rather than coal-fired boilers. Now, this in World War I meant it was not sent over to Britain and Europe during World War I, because most of the supplies over in the UK was coal, not oil. So they didn't want to use the reserves up over in the UK. What I'll do here is, and also I don't need the speed, so I'm not worried about getting a great speed on the ship. So we just use the normal huge propellers and basically fuel engines to take out to drive it. And that will be possibly a theme I'll use on not all but some of the American ships. I think they'll mainly be oil fired, using where possible, where I don't need particular speed. Okay, so let's get building this ship. Hopefully it will perform a little bit better against larger ships. I'm guessing it's just missing a little bit on these, but again, since it's going to be designed to do land bombardment where the enemy vessel is not going to be moving, I think it will work in the long run. Let's see what I get, how I get with building the ship. And after a fair bit of working on this vessel over time, I think I've got something which approximates the US Arizona in many ways, with the big guns. And also, whilst I was building, there was a new update, so we had some more simple guns which I've managed to litter this hull with. We now have a we've got quadruple guns, quintuple guns, 20mm quad guns, you know, quite a little bit of a few different guns to fire out with. We've got some updated 3.7mm, so they actually have a slightly larger shell. But to have a look at the guns in the ship in general, so we've got the main 1406 guns, which are front and rear, basically aimed to fire up very slow, very big targets. We have some ammo in between the turrets as a ammo section, fairly well armoured. We, as you can see, lots of these simple weapon guns, just to add a little what should we say, defense against aerial targets, and we'll see some of that shortly. It does do quite well against the aerial targets, actually. We also do have some couple of catapults for aircraft, and you'll see there's 2 aircraft hanging around, and these will automatically spawn. I've got to work on it a little bit, but the idea is that they spawn if there is either a vessel underwater or very far away. Now, one of them is a Kingfisher Scout, which basically will just relay target information, and the other one is a Kingfisher anti-submarine warfare vessel. So basically they will take care of any other little targets. What other changes have we got on here? Propulsion wise, we're actually using the old style propellers. We're not going over for a lot of speed here. 6 meters a second in cruise mode, which it's in now, and going up to about 12 meters a second in battle conditions. It has got some shields. I haven't used the new ring shield because I need to have a work on that, but it has got some low level 3 shields along the hull, just to give it a little bit of frag protection. And engine wise, now the engines I've used are not necessarily the most efficient. They are just ones which I quite like the looks of, and they're efficient enough. They're not hyper efficient, but their size is reasonable. An 8 before. They could be more efficient, but I have a problem with the fuel engines in this game. They're not really, they don't purport to what really happens with real engines and real turbochargers. They're a bit gamey to me. And then I've got some just high power injector engines which really give it a high boost if absolutely required, but most of the times these should be doing next to nothing. Let's just check. So yeah, it's actually providing a little bit of power, which is must be more than I really want it to, so we'll have to have a look at that and see if I can get that to go even lower. Maybe using a little bit more fuel than I'd like, so I may put some command blocks on there to actually kill the engine totally if there's no enemy around, so to force it to go into 0. And then the other engine is actually a more efficient engine, which is really the one that I want to do most of the power with. Again, not hyper efficient, but much more efficient. It's running at low RPM at the moment, but the fuel usage does go reasonable as the revs go up. Yes, you can get ones at around 1,000. Don't need that. I'm just comparing this to the steam engines, and fuel is so cheap in the campaign, it's not a problem really anyway. My main base will be producing fuel quicker than I could burn it, most probably. Okay, so how does this perform? Well, first of all, let's have a go with all these guns. How does it perform against some aircraft? So I've brought in a range of white flare aircraft, and we can see the main 146 guns are first firing. They will fire out around 2,000. We've got a few anti-missile interceptors, and we should be taking out most of the missiles, but not all of them. Now it's getting a bit closer. We've got all of our guns are now firing. The 40 mil, that's the 20 mils are firing there. We've got this Sex2, is it a Sex2 clip? No, yeah, 8 barreled 40 mil guns. They make a hell of a racket, but they seem to do the job and fire out pretty well. What have we actually got any problems with? We've taken one out. Not bad at all actually. Some of our aircraft may have had a little bit of damage, but no, actually all our ships actually survived without a problem. So that's against aircraft, so it's got quite a considerable AA barrage now, which was exactly what I was after. How about against small ships? So I've brought in a range of small and medium-sized ships, including some fast ones like the Charger, etc., to see how it does. The main guns will have a go at some of the slower ships if they slow down. Just to, you know, it's always going to try and fire if it can predict a good course. We've got a Charger coming in. Didn't quite take him out, but you can see our 146s are firing at the moment, and the other guns will also fire. That leaves a lot of smoke, those CRAM cannons. But they've taken out the Charger, which is good, and they're having to go at the Martyr that I did put in there. You can see the little 40 mils are also having a go at that. Hopefully with any luck. They got it a little bit late, but they did get it. That's the important bit. And we did have, I had some other ones coming in here, Marrow, Pulper, Chaser and other ships, and it seems to be doing reasonable against them. So I set some white flare buildings up on the coast up ahead, and they're soon be coming into range, and our scout planes are actually heading off there. They will try to circle about 1500 meters or so away from the target, and then provide some extra data, targeting data, for our guns. And the guns are now in range, are starting to aim at the target around 2200, so we will see what they do to these land-based targets. It's also going to be a test a bit of the ground avoidance on the AI. And did they zap out? That's potentially possible. So at the moment the AI is aiming to get very close. Let's put it that way. A little closer than I would like, actually. And there's some good solid hits against the white flare. I think that's the obelisk. No, it's not the obelisk, that's the Sinner's Pit. And this is just what I wanted it to do. Just bomb the heck out of the enemy's base with some big old CRAM shells. Lovely. It seems to be getting itself a bit confused as to which broadside to go for at the moment. I think I'll just give it a bit of a help to decide. That's it for this build. I'll put this up on the forum because I haven't got my Steam to work properly yet. Next, I think it needs a cruiser or two possibly to support it, and I was thinking of like a Omaha, having a test with those new casement guns which are in the simple system, plus a few other little bits and pieces, or maybe a Cleveland is the other possibility for a US based gun, but both reasonable AA platforms. Certainly the Cleveland would be a good AA platform for as an escort ship for our battleship. So I will post, I think, a bug about this right-left broadside. Look, it just can't, it's going nowhere because it can't make up its mind out which broadside to go. Okay, anyway, that I think is it for now. Leave any comments below. But as always, keep playing the game and have fun.